Smith leads us in the pledge to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, give us the strength, courage, and wisdom to always act in the best interest of the people of Westchester while in this chamber. Let us keep in mind that every decision that we make impacts upon the life, health, and safety of all our great county residents. Amen. Madam Clerk.
Majority Leader Harcum.
Here.
Minority Leader Mazzano.
Here.
Ms. Borgia.
Here.
Mr. Burrows. Mr. Gelfarb.
Here.
Mr. Kaplowitz.
Present.
Ms. Martin. Ms. Myers.
Here.
Ms. Perez. Mr. Ryan.
Here.
Ms. Shimsky.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Brickman. Mr. Testa.
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Williams. Mr. Chairman.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harcum.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, I was just consulting with my colleague. At this point in time, I would move the consent calendar with the following three suggested revisions. On page 3, number 9, instead of Committee on Government Operations, please substitute Committee on Public Safety. On page 4, item 3, please add Committee on Environment and Energy. And on page 8, item 22, please add Legislator Alfreda Williams, and please also add the Committee on Budget and Appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. Harcum. Mr. Mazzano. Thank you, Mr. Mazzano. Ms. Shimsky.
I concur, Mr. Chairman.
Madam Clerk, we are on consent. Mr. Harcum, for the minutes.
Yes, Mr. Chair, move the two sets of minutes, Monday the 28th, the 7 o'clock meeting, and Monday the 20, no, that can't be, 2 Mondays. Oh yeah, I see, one was January 28th, the other was February 25th at 7 p.m. My apologies, move both sets.
Thank you, Mr. Harcum. Members without objection, so ordered. Madam Clerk, public comment.
Each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes. I'm going to call the names of the speakers and ask that you please come down the aisle to my left and wait behind the black ropes. Regina Riley, Loretta Ford, Edmund Riley, Hector Alvarez, Michael Timlin, Aaron Wooden, Nicholas Chen, Steve Smith, Robert Bernstein, Frank Morgenthaler. And the first speaker is Regina Riley.
Good evening. My name is Regina Riley. I'm from the 9th Legislative District of Mrs. Borges. And I'm speaking tonight on the New York State Universal Abortion Law S438, and also on the Cuomo abortion bill, whether it's the same or he's going to finagle and do it bait and switch. At any rate, whether you're a feminist for life as I am or one who is not particularly pro-life, these bills are dangerous to women. It will not make abortion any rarer. It'll make it abundantly much more. And it also will make it very, very dangerous. They're taking backroom abortions and they're putting it in the front room. Nurses used to be taught to promote life and healing. Medical doctors used to take the Hippocratic Oath, which forbade inducing abortions. They swore to do no harm. Certain organizations, such as the Northeast chapter of the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists and a New York Association of Nurses, have wanted and are pushing the Universal Abortion Bill S438 to pass in New York State Senate. A nurse is not promoting life or serving a woman's best interest if she wants non-doctors to do abortions. She is not ensuring the mother's safety by allowing third trimester abortions to be done at freestanding local abortion clinics for any reason. What incentive do an abortion with extreme care, what incentive to do an abortion with extreme care is there if doctors can say criminal negligence that kills a mother or severely maims her life should not subject him or her to possible jail time? Under such easy rules, Dr. Carhart's desertion of the New Rochelle woman who bled to death after having aborted an 8th-month fetal child would bring a health department or doctor's board monetary penalty. Agag, if it were your wife or daughter, who bled out while the doctor or non-doctor went to do abortions in another state, would not criminal negligence be warranted if it were your kin? How is not making Planned Parenthood's clinics, nurses, doctors, and staff mandated reporters? How is not making them mandated reporters of suspected sexual child abuse, incest, rape, and pedophilia, protecting these children? And how is letting 11-year-old girls buy morning after pills that are 5 to 10 times more poisonous than daily birth control pills, protecting these children and incarcerating their abusers? I ask you to take a resolution to can this bill. It's Senate Bill 438, and you should call your state senators and tell them what a horrific thing this is to women.
Loretta Ford.
That's right. Have it to her. Thank you.
Do you have a stool?
I'll just pull the mic stand.
Oh, okay. Historians view the widespread individual ownership of arms as an important factor in the development of the concept of individual liberties. Is it possible for a nation to go from wide open freedom for a civil liberty to near total destruction of that liberty in just a few decades? Yes. Reasonable restrictions on civil liberty today will start the nation down the slippery slope to severe repression of the future. Look no further than in Britain. The British Parliament that created gun registration systems in the 1920s had no intentions of banning handguns. But that 1920 Parliament failed to foresee the danger that a registration system, even if created with the best intentions, could later be used for confiscation. Make no mistake. Cuomo wants to confiscate your firearms, your shotguns, your rifles, anything that you want to have because it's your civil right, they want to take away. So it is sensible for civil liberties advocates in the United States to resist registration of persons who exercise constitutional rights, not because the registration is burdensome, but because registration amounts to greasing the slippery slope. So the only practical way that the British gun owners could have avoided abuse of the licensing laws would have been to resist the first proposed laws. However, the gun owners would never have expected what happened to them would have happened. Today, their gun rights have been obliterated. So in 1911, the Sullivan Law was enacted because of fear of the Irish, the Jewish, and the Italian immigrants in New York State. Laws requiring handgun buying and carrying licenses were put in place, and the sponsor of this law said that homicides would decrease. Homicides increased, and the criminals were armed more than anyone could have ever imagined. Let's go forward to 1980, when New York Police Commissioner Benjamin Ward told his firearms licensing staff to refuse to issue licenses for a Glock pistol. Well, Benjamin Ward had his own Glock pistol, and he didn't let anybody know about it until the media back then did their job. They found out about it, and the law was not put into effect. So gun registration has now laid the foundation for confiscation in New York City, where the 1967 registration system for long guns was used, and in the early 1990s, confiscation of lawfully owned semi-automatic rifles went into place. Nevertheless, the United States gun control advocates continue to insist that the United States gun rights advocates are paranoid for resisting registration because it might lead to confiscation. When the media and the public know little about an item, it's easy for the reporters to talk themselves and their audience into a panic. Sensational crimes are used as launching pads for further steps to prohibition, and it must be stopped.
Thank you. Okay, so just so everyone knows the rules of the chamber, we neither clap nor boo for the speakers. So we try to refrain from that. So we're going to ask that folks do not clap or boo at the speakers. Thank you so much. Next speaker, Madam Clerk.
Ed Riley.
My name is Ed Riley. I'm from Croton. It's about the 40th time I've asked the abortion clique in the Democratic Party of Borgia, Myers, Shimsky, Harkam, and 2 of the black legislators to investigate the way Planned Parenthood conducts business in Westchester County, especially in the black and Spanish areas in Westchester. Recently, a woman from New Rochelle was killed along with her daughter in an abortion mill in Maryland, Germantown, Maryland, by a notorious abortionist who's known throughout the United States. Why? Leroy Carhart's name is on 3 Supreme Court cases involving partial birth abortion. That's called an intact dilation and extraction. They made up that name after they did it for the press. That's where you take the baby out, except for the head, you stab the scissors in the baby's back of the neck, and then you suck its brains out. That was done 5,000 to 10,000 times a year in the United States. Most of the time they just chop the child up inside and then pull it out piece by piece. You would not know it from the press that Carhart, the famous Supreme Court partial birth abortionist, was the one who killed that woman because the press didn't tell you. And they didn't tell you that he was directly connected to Tiller and the Secretary of Health Human Services, Sebelius. Kathleen Sebelius is directly connected to Carhart and directly connected to Tiller. Now, if you'd like to know how this practice is done in this state, Cuomo is trying to pass a Reproductive Health Care Act to make abortion legal in this state throughout 9 months. Doctors recently testified in Albany there's no reason to kill a child after 24 weeks. You deliver the child through C-section. To abort the child and chop it up inside poses a bigger risk to the mother than delivering the child by C-section. Nonetheless, Cuomo and the Democratic Party, with the exception of 2 courageous Democrats, wants to extend abortion through 9 months of pregnancy, allow abortions to be done by non-physicians, certified licensed healthcare professionals. What is that, a chiropractor, a podiatrist? By the way, these are being done right now in this state by receptionists. Anesthesia is being administered by people who are not licensed to do anesthesia, only they're covering up. They want to make it legal now to do that. And lastly, they want to decriminalize abortion. Why do they want to decriminalize abortion? They don't want women prosecuting abortionists for criminal negligence when they get injured and or when they die. They do not want their family to pressure the DA to prosecute these abortionists because the abortionists and their lobbyists support the Democratic Party in this state. I would be glad to debate that with anybody, anywhere, at any time about that. By decriminalizing abortion, that forces the family to try and get justice through the administrative process, and who appoints these administrators and these bureaucrats? These damn politicians.
Hector Alvarez. Hector Alvarez. Nope. Michael Timlin.
Thank you. I am very big on body language, and I've been watching all of you today not pay much attention to what everybody's been saying, and it's been quite important, so I hope you hear what I'm about to say to you right now. I implore you not to follow this SAFE Act law. I am a business owner in Westchester County. You hear what I'm saying? Thank you. I am a resident of Westchester County, Mount Vernon, both places. Both places. None of you came here, or anybody from the state came and spoke to me about this SAFE Act law. Maybe a little insight from somebody in the business might have helped you make a decision. But none of it has happened. Therefore, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to make this very clear to you. If any of you choose to support this law, I will make it my personal mission to vote all of you out. All of you. You will not see another minute in those seats, because I will not have anything to do with my time if you pass a gun ban. My life dedication has been in the training of firearms for peace officers, police officers, and the private citizens. And that's all I've been doing. And now, with a 3-year-old son and one on the way, you're putting me out of business. You are putting the community out of business. You do not realize what you're doing. This is a very huge impact on what's going on today. And the citizens here are speaking, but I don't believe you're hearing them. Not one little bit. Because as I can see right here, as I'm talking to you, heads down, eating peanuts, doodling on papers is more important than the citizens of Westchester County and what they're trying to tell you. They heard you. Now you have to listen to them. Thank you. Don't clap.
Aaron Wooden.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Aaron Wooden. I'm a lifelong Westchester resident. I'm a firearm owner, and I'm a dot on the infamous LOHUD map. Last year, I was at an urgent care center following up on an abdominal twinge that had turned out to be exactly what I suspected it to be, appendicitis. And after hours of tests, my hunch was confirmed, and as I was leaving for White Plains Hospital in the emergency room, a fellow patient walked in and headed toward me. His shirt said Smith & Wesson on it. Despite the acute nature of my situation, I stopped for a moment to talk to him. So there we were, him with his cast, and me with a distressed organ. And as all New York gun owners do, first we complain about the lousy, overly strict laws that we have to follow, and then we delve into the actual firearms that we own and enjoy at the range. That's the level of dedication that we have to our sport, our freedom, and our cause. Pardon me. And that was before the SAFE Act. The restrictions it imposes go against both the U.S. and the state constitutions. The SAFE Act is a hindrance to those with criminal intent, is not a hindrance to those with criminal intent and malice in their hearts. In fact, the restrictions only further diminish our right to keep and bear arms, making the enjoyment of this right more inconvenient, more expensive, and full of traps for the unwary, unlucky people who unintentionally break this law. We happen to have a neighbor to the north and east of us. They're called Vermont. They get along just fine with no permits to own or carry, no limits on magazines, and no so-called assault weapons ban. And no, folks, I don't intend to move there. In the firearm and self-defense community, there is a towering figure named Lance Thomas, a Los Angeles-based jeweler who prevailed in many gunfights against the thugs who tried to rob his store and take his life and the life of others. And when interviewed, he speaks not just protecting himself, his customers, his visiting girlfriend, he also fought to protect something deeper, his honor. He literally stood up and said to his assailants, "You will not take from me what is not yours to take." And so I'm here too, standing in front of you. I am defending my honor, and perhaps by extension that of my fellow gun owners. And my message is, you will not take from me what is not yours to take. We have had enough incursions on our freedom. We want the SAFE Act repealed, and once that abomination is removed, we want the other shackles taken off as well. So again, you will not take from me what is not yours to take. Not my firearms, not my magazines, not my ammunition, and certainly not my freedom. Thank you very much.
Okay, let me make it clear, because maybe it wasn't clear. A, we are listening to you. B, if there's an outburst again, you will be removed. Thank you.
Nicholas Chen.
Thank you. I want to bring your attention to a very specific aspect to this whole gun issue. I commend your unanimous decision to go against gun violence. It's definitely a tragedy that we have in this country. However, there's some aspects that maybe you don't comprehend or understand. Limiting ammunition capacity in a firearm just does not work. But let's say that it does, okay? According to the SAFE Act, you can only have 7 bullets in your gun at your home to defend your life of your family. I can go to the range and have a full 10 rounds, according to the New York SAFE Act. I can have 10 bullets to shoot at targets, but not enough to save my own life or the life of my family, or worst case, to save the life of someone else I love, a neighbor. I have a list from the New York Firearms website. It's an online forum for firearm owners, responsible firearm owners. These are Class E felonies or minor or less, compared to having an 8th bullet in my gun in my house. That's a Class D felony. These crimes, criminal obstruction of breathing or blood circulation, you want to suffocate somebody or choke them to death. That's not as bad as having an extra bullet to save my own ass. Sexual misconduct, criminally negligent homicide, rape of the 3rd degree, forcible touching, persistent sexual abuse. That's a repeat child molester, and this person must be caught and convicted in 2 separate cases before this charge can even reach this level. That's not as bad as me having an extra bullet to save my life. Female genital mutilation, you think that couldn't possibly happen? That happens in places like Africa. But here, if it does happen, it's not as bad as having an extra bullet in my gun. Swapping babies, okay? It's called child substitution. For some reason, if you want to swap a baby, that's not as bad. Committing riots of a 2nd degree, 1st degree, or inciting to riot is not as bad as trying to save my own life. Incest of the 3rd degree, possessing obscene sexual performance of a child, possessing sexual performance of a child. None of these crimes are deemed as bad in New York as what Cuomo just put into law, just because I want to have an extra bullet in my gun to save my own life. Common sense is one thing. You can justify anything, rationalize anything away. Okay, look at history. You have very, very good examples of how they rationalized putting away Japanese Americans because it's for security. They did away with Native Americans because they were in our way. They rationalized it, okay? Don't rationalize something that is in the Constitution just because it makes sense to you, even though you haven't looked further into it. Thank you.
Steve Smith.
Hello and good evening, everyone. I'm here to stand up for my rights as a gun owner in New York. I, like many law-abiding citizens, feel the same way. We are opposed to Governor Cuomo's new New York SAFE Act. What can I tell you that my previous speakers haven't already mentioned? That I grew up in a hunting and fishing family. My parents were both big and small game hunters. I reloaded shotgun shells. I went hunting with my father. Now my son hunts with me. My daughter shoots target and trap with me. We go to Blue Mountain Sportsman Center often. We target shoot. We have a place in the Catskills. Guns is part of the family tradition, like it is with many New Yorkers. What else can I tell you that my previous speakers have not mentioned? A part of the law that I think has not been mentioned yet was the way that Governor Cuomo rushed the passage of the law by declaring it a message of necessity, an emergency, passing the law behind closed doors without giving any people any time to voice their concerns. I think that's very much unfair. I think it's illegal. It's violated the New York State Constitution. And it's placing unduly hardships on law-abiding citizens in regards to being able to purchase ammunition online at competitive prices. Now I'd have to go to a store 30 miles away and pay whatever they want to sell it at. That's just one of the one of the points of the law that makes it oppressive towards law-abiding citizens. So I think at some point in the future, you folks will gather together, and it is my desire to urge you to repeal that SAFE Act and make it repeal it, and then if people want to go with a gun control law, let them bring it about in the normal way, not an illegal way. Thank you.
Robert Bernstein.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, legislators. I want to commend the chairman and legislators Williams and Borgia for their leadership in helping Ferncliff look for alternative sites to relocate. I think that's an important thing for them to do, and I applaud you for having the courage and wisdom to go out and help them do that. I spoke 2 weeks ago about some of the legal issues involved in the Ferncliff dispute. I submitted an opinion letter, which I understand is part of your agenda tonight. I suggest you look at it. I had an op-ed in the Journal News on Sunday. Some of you may have seen it. I suggest you look at it. That will explain in more detail some of the issues, particularly those concerning the impact that destroying 108 units of housing in a white area would have on the county housing settlement. But tonight I want to talk to you about next steps. And in particular, I want to speak to you about the lease. The lease that's at the heart of the dispute is a lease between the town of Greenburgh and the county that requires the town to use the 108 apartments for low or moderate income tenants. The town is in breach of that lease in two fundamental respects. First, they're obviously keeping the units vacant. And second, they're violating the covenant in Section 8 of the lease to keep the lease in the premises in good repair and not to commit any waste. They're allowing the units to go to waste. Leases, like contracts, are important. They must be respected. The lease, in this case, gives you the right, which I suggest you invoke, to declare the lease in default. Now, as a Greenburgh resident, I'm not happy about that, because I don't want Greenburgh to lose out on the right to get additional revenues. But the lease also provides that when you declare them in default, you give them a right to cure. And the lease specifically provides that you give them 30 days to cure. And there are already people lined up with alternative program proposals for that facility that will fulfill its mission. And it would be helpful to Greenburgh financially if they would exercise that. But if Greenburgh fails to do that, you have the right on 60 days to terminate that lease. and I respectfully suggest that you put Greenberg on notice of your intention to do that. The intention here, assuming Greenberg's officials were acting in good faith, was to hold the units available so that Ferncliff could come in. Let me wrap up 1 second. But assuming Greenberg was acting in good faith, at a minimum, it should have asked for permission to leave the units alone like that. They did not do so. They are in breach, and I respectfully suggest that you honor the contract by enforcing it. The time is now. The units are going to waste unless you act now. Thank you.
Frank Morgenthaler.
Good evening, Chairman Jenkins. How are you? Members of the board, and most importantly, my fellow citizens of Westchester County. I'm here tonight to address Resolution 2013-11. Some of you may remember that. It was unanimously approved at the last board meeting on February 11th. That resolution, among other things, stated that this board, in quotes, supports greater federal gun control measures that do not violate the Constitution. Well, that statement in itself is contradictory, since any action that seeks to restrict the right of any law-abiding American citizen to bear arms is an infringement and therefore a violation of the Constitution. Possibly, you may have been unaware that any action to restrict Second Amendment rights, or for that matter, any other right guaranteed by the Constitution, is a violation. That being said, since the board stated in its resolution that it did not want to violate the Constitution, and this resolution clearly does, then I believe the board should immediately rescind that resolution, 2013-11, based on its unconstitutional content. Another serious concern about this resolution is the manner in which it was moved forward. The residents of Westchester County, we the people sitting back here, okay, we had no input into this process. We deserve one. We deserve to be part of this. There were no public hearings or open discussions held. It's widely known that more than 50 New York counties have passed resolutions opposing greater gun control in general, and more specifically, the New York SAFE Act, which has been referenced a few times earlier. In those other counties, public hearings were held, and the residents had a chance to speak and express their opinions. We here in Westchester, we had no such opportunity. In those other counties, the opposition to increased gun control was so strong that the local legislatures were forced to vote resolutions in opposition to the increased gun control and the New York SAFE Act. I asked the question, why did this board, the 17 members of this board, why did you fail to hold a public hearing? We have a right to know. You are here because of us. We have a right to know why we were not included in this process. Why was there a rush to pass this resolution? Very similar to the action taken in Albany. This is unacceptable. As it stands now, this resolution only represents the opinion of 16, because there was one legislator missing that night, absent. Those opinions are not, and I'll repeat, not in line with those of the Second Amendment supporters who are here tonight, and about 100 more who couldn't get in downstairs.
Mr. Morgan, you have to wrap.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Just remember a couple of points. Remember, gun control laws only affect law-abiding citizens who don't commit the crimes. The criminals will still get guns, and the criminals will still do what they've always done. One thing this body can do that would be very effective, go after Governor Cuomo's plan to release up to 6,000 mentally ill people into the streets, unsupervised. That story's been reported in the Post. I haven't seen it anywhere else. But that's his intent. He's closed mental health facilities since he's been governor. He's reduced capacities in others. We need a resolution here to stand up to that. People who need care need a place to go, and they need to be helped. In conclusion, I just like to ask this board again, consider repealing this resolution, and I just remind you that you serve here at the pleasure of the people, we the people, those people back there. And it'd be nice if you guys turned around and just waved to them. Let them know who their legislators are. If you do me that honor, I would appreciate it.
Right.
They're waving to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, November's coming, folks. I just say that with respect. Please do what you need to do. Please respect our constitutional rights and defend them. And, Ken, if I might, his name is Hector first.
No, I have a card for Hector Alvarez.
We have that.
That is in a different group. It's for a different,
Thank you,
here.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have no other cards for public comment.
Thank you. There is a card in the other category, Ms. Dow. You'll be heard in our public comment for the public hearing. So you signed up for a different thing, not a problem. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would move that we suspend the regular order of business for the purpose of conducting one public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Harcum. Madam Clerk.
Notice of tonight's public hearing was published in the Journal News. I have proof of publication, which is available for inspection in my office. Public hearing is from the Committees on Budget, from the Committees on Legislation and Government Operations on a local law amending the laws of Westchester County by adding a new chapter relating to the establishment of regulations to prevent the displacement of building service workers. Each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes. Again, I'll call the names of the speakers and ask that you please come down the aisle to my left and wait behind the black ropes. Joe Mayhew, Bill Mooney, Patrick Welsh, John Santos, Mitchell Hirsch, Hector Garcet, Matthew Dunkel, Jeremy Bressler, Barry McGowie, Jason, I'm sorry, I can't read the last name. Say it again. Schijano, Florence McHugh.
Before we start, we're just going to remind everyone of the rules again. So we'll start it off the top. No clapping nor booing. We listen intently with respect to every speaker. Mr. Mayhew.
Good evening, Chairman Jenkins and the members of the board. My name is Joe Mayhew. I am the business agent and legislative political coordinator for the Communication Workers of America, Local 1103. CWA represents 600,000 workers in the public and private sectors, 500 who work right here in Westchester County. Today I'm here to express our support for the Displaced Service Workers Protection Bill. The bill is simple. It asks that a new contractor hire incumbent employees for a 60-day transition period after starting a new contract. This is already standard practice in the facilities management industry. Contractors save on unnecessary recruitment and training costs and benefit from the knowledge of an experienced workforce. Clients and tenants receive continuation of reliable service and a smooth transition to a new contract. And workers benefit from the added job security. This is a clear win-win for all of Westchester. The contractors who fire incumbent workers when starting a new contract are quite frankly a minority of bad actors who are often seeking to cut costs by hiring inexperienced workers at much lower wages. CWA knows there are bad actors who simply want to avoid hiring workers who are in a union. But it's important to understand that this legislation is not only about unionized workers. It offers protection to all workers. Job security is especially important to the workers covered under this bill. Many of them are supporting families on low income and depend on a steady employment to be able to plan for a future, put money aside for an emergency, and provide for their families. The bad practice this bill protects against not only affect Westchester families, but they have a widespread negative social and economic effect on the local economy, including costs to the employer and their clients. By strengthening responsibility and common sense business practice, this bill will avoid this. For these reasons, CWA Local 1103 strongly encourages the passage of the Displaced Service Workers Protection Bill. I say to you, work is more than wages earned. It's dignity. Shame on anyone who would take the dignity away from a working Westchester family. Thank you.
Bill Mooney.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight regarding the displacement of workers. I represent hundreds of Beeline bus drivers and mechanics who service the transportation needs of Westchester County. Cost per vehicle passenger mile, when compared to similar transit systems across the nation, would indicate the Beeline is a very cost-effective and efficient operation. It is that way because the workers, the drivers, the cleaners, the mechanics, the maintenance people, and yes, management personnel make it that way. It is that way because the experience and knowledge gained over years of doing the job, bus transit in Westchester County is stable. We support the resolution before you. Other municipalities have adopted similar legislation across America. They have recognized the common sense that it makes for a society, and we hope for Westchester County, to value and cultivate experience. Experience is a precious and hard to come by commodity. It makes good business sense for a management to value experience as a valuable asset to the enterprise. If a management can't or won't utilize the experience of workers, then maybe something is wrong. Maybe they shouldn't be in the business at all. We support this legislation because it addresses the need for basic fairness for workers who come to work every day and do the job well. They should have the security for their families knowing the job will be there tomorrow. We believe all workers who provide service to the people of Westchester County need the protection provided in this bill. Any worker who gives a fair day's work for a fair day's pay should have this protection. In the long run, this bill is good business, not bad business. We support this bill because it is only common sense to support it and short-sighted not to. Thank you.
Patrick Welsh.
One copy of this?
Good evening. My name is Patrick Welsh. I'm chair of the Westchester Putnam Work and Families Party. And I'm here to talk to you very quickly, and I want to give you a little example of, it's a large example, but it gives you an example of the problem that we have here in Westchester with this displaced worker bill. Walmart and Costco are pretty much in the same business, but Walmart has a 70% turnover on a regular basis, whereas Costco only has an 18% turnover. Yet Costco makes more profit per employee. So in other words, it's making more money per worker than Walmart is with all its billions and billions of dollars. And the reason Walmart has such a high turnover because of the way it treats its workers, low pay and low benefits, whereas Costco, on the other hand, has a record of paying their workers a good wage and giving them benefits. So that creates loyalty. Allowing contractors to swap back and forth and allowing workers to lose their jobs on a regular basis is just causes so much instability in the working families and in the working class. An example of that is the recent school bus strike down in New York City. Those workers that went back to work after a 2 or 3 week strike have no jobs in September as far as they know. And some of them have been driving school buses for 30 years. They have benefits, they have families, they're trying to put their children through college, and they don't know what they're going to be doing in September because they put out the bids for a new contractor for school buses. If you don't continue the seniority, if you don't continue the work into the next contractor, then you're leaving these people in a place where they really, really shouldn't be. After putting 30 years in and watching over other people's children and getting them safely back and forth to school. It's just not the right way to do business. It's not the right way to treat people. It's not the right way to treat a community of working people who have dedicated their lives to doing the right thing, who are part of the foundation of the middle class, that everybody can't go to college. It's just that's the way it is. And there are jobs out there that some people have to do that need to be done. and this isn't the way to treat them. It causes uncertainty, it weakens the middle class, and if you give loyalty to workers, the workers will return that loyalty. And return that loyalty to not only to their employees, but to the community. Work and Families Party is in full support of this legislation. We think that its bill is a benefit to both workers in Westchester and deserves your support. Thank you.
John Santos.
Good evening, Chairman Jenkins and member of the Board of Legislators. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to testify in favor of displaced service worker protection legislation. My name is John Santos, and I am a Vice President and the Hudson Valley Area Director for SEIU 32BJ. We represent over 120,000 members in 8 states and Washington, D.C. Our members are janitors, resident service workers, security officers, food service workers. In Westchester County, 32BJ represents 4,300 members, which accounts for nearly 70% of the building service workers in this county. I have a relationship with many of the contractors that work for and the owners of the buildings they work in. All this is to say that I know the industry. However, maintaining a steady work can be challenging for building service workers because contractors turnover occur at a high rate in this competitive service contractor industry. The norm is to retain the incumbent workers in order to ensure a smooth transition and continuity of services for clients, as well as to avoid unnecessary costs associated with recruiting, hiring, and training a new workforce. This good practice also provides a measure of job security for workers and allows them to build experience in their field. However, some bad actors seek short-term profits by terminating all experienced workers and hiring a set of entirely new workers at lower wages. This practice is devastating for the terminated workers. Some are fired with less than 24-hour notice. Hardworking men and women are already struggling to make ends meet, and their families will only suffer more without that income. The displaced service worker protection legislation will help protect against this, ensuring that low-wage workers are not dismissed when the contractor they work for changes. This legislation would do for the following: provide for a 60-day transition period in which incumbent service workers are to be offered the opportunity to remain on the job by a new contractor. The new contractor will determine appropriate staffing levels and will not be required to retain more employees than are needed. The new contractor will have the power to terminate incumbent employees for just cause. After the first 60 days of the contract, the new contractor will provide a written evaluation of each incumbent employee. Any employee that receives a satisfactory evaluation will be offered continued employment. The legislation does not set any required standards with regards to wages and benefits to be offered to the incumbent workers. Several areas have passed legislation similar to this bill and that you are considering today. Displaced worker legislation has a track record of success in providing protection to some of our most vulnerable workers. It is time for Westchester County property service workers to have the same protection. On behalf of our members and all property service workers, I urge you to support this simple, effective legislation. Thank you for your time.
Mitchell Hirsch.
Good evening. My name is Mitchell Hirsch, and I'm pleased to be here tonight, having grown up in Westchester County, graduated from White Plains High School a mere 45 years ago. I am an advocate with the National Employment Law Project. NELP is a national nonprofit, nonpartisan organization based in New York City that conducts research and advocates on behalf of policies that help unemployed workers and low-wage workers. Under discussion this evening is a displaced service worker protection ordinance that would require that a new building service contractor offer employment to the existing employees for the first 60 days of the new contract. The legislation reinforces an existing standard practice in building service contracting, which is to hire incumbent janitors not only for 60 days but as permanent employees. Contractors who choose not to adhere to this standard not only compromise the quality of service in the building, but create serious disruptions in the lives of the separated workers and their families. The National Employment Law Project has been asked to speak this evening about the importance of workers maintaining their connection to employment, which the proposed ordinance would help ensure. Through my work running campaigns to reauthorize federal unemployment insurance benefits for the long-term unemployed, or to prohibit the shameful practice by employers of discriminating against unemployed job seekers in hiring decisions, I've become well acquainted with the difficulties families must endure after the loss of a job. In New York, the number of unemployed is still nearly twice what it was before the recession. In Westchester County, nearly 7% of residents are out of a job, compared to roughly 4% before the recession. Nationally, long-term unemployment persists at record levels, with 2012 marking the third straight year that over 4 in 10 people who were out of work were jobless for over 6 months. In New York, 45% of jobless workers are among these long-term unemployed. The impacts of job loss and prolonged unemployment on workers and their families cannot be overstated. Research documents the financial effects, some of which may linger for many years after the initial job loss. For example, losing a job during a recession can lead to a 20% reduction in earnings 15 to 20 years later. A recent survey by Rutgers University shows that of workers who were laid off during the Great Recession and who were able to find new work, almost half were in a job they considered a step down. More than half reported lower pay. Such outcomes could not only lead to diminished feelings of self-worth, but to increased stress on finances as families are forced to dip into savings or take on greater debt.
We need you to wrap.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
These realities should come as no surprise, considering the steep barriers the unemployed face in our still weak economy. We should be doing all we can to promote continuity of employment for workers and avoid the pain of needless job loss. Therefore, we strongly support the passage of the Displaced Service Worker Protection Ordinance. Thank you.
Hector Garcet.
Good evening, Chairman Jenkins and Board of Legislators and the rest of the people here. Good evening. My name is Hector Garcet. I live in White Plains. I'm here with the group that was talking before in opposition to the New York State SAFE Act and the Westchester County version. I'd like to direct my comments from the perspective of the gun-free zones. In 1990, the federal government enacted the Gun-Free School Zone Act. The intent was good, but the consequences have turned out to be pretty bad. Look at a little bit of the data. October 1991, Luby's Cafeteria, a gun-free zone in Killeen, Texas. The result, 23 dead, 20 wounded. You might want to ask Susan Hupp, who was there, what happened. April 1999, Columbine High School, gun-free zone in Colorado. 15 dead, 23 wounded. December 2007, West Roads Mall, a gun-free zone in Omaha, Nebraska, 9 dead, 6 injured. April 2007, Virginia Tech University, a gun-free zone, 23 dead. February 2008, Northern Illinois University, a gun-free zone. In DeKalb, Illinois, 6 dead, 17 wounded. August 2009, American Civic Association, a gun-free zone in Binghamton, New York, 14 dead. November 2009, Army military base in Fort Hood, Texas. You'd figure these Army enlisted who were taught to use weapons, but because of political correctness, it was a gun-free zone. 13 dead. Some people say that political correctness is killing us. Ain't that the truth? August 2010, a private owner had decided to make his place of business, Hartford Distributors, in Manchester, Connecticut, a gun-free zone. Didn't work. 9 dead, 2 injured. I can go on. I've got a whole more of these to go on, but what I'd like to do is just, it's a pattern here. You can see that it's a pattern. So do you think that this federal gun-free zone law is working as intended? Gun-free zones to a criminal is great news. It makes their work easier because they know that nobody will be shooting back at them. Killers go where victims cannot defend themselves. And the more restrictions you pass, the more victims you create. It's ironic that of the 3 most vocal anti-gun people, Dianne Feinstein, Chuck Schumer, and our own Governor Andrew Cuomo, all have gun carry permits, and they all carry. Yet they think that we, the law-abiding citizens of our country, should not carry. They just want to make us victims. If you still think the gun-free zone is a good idea, I invite you to put a big sign in the front of your house that says, "This is a gun-free home." Come back and tell us in a couple of weeks what you think about that, what the results might be to that. All of you legislators here took an oath to uphold the county, state, and federal constitution. The Second Amendment ends with, "And the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." If you make laws against the Second Amendment, could it be considered treason? In conclusion, I'd like to leave you with this thought. Liberals and the ACLU have kicked God out of our schools, and prayer out of our schools. Perhaps it is time for us to kick the liberals and the ACLU out of our schools and maybe allow prayer again. Perhaps by allowing prayer in our schools, little children won't be bullied as much. Perhaps by allowing prayer in schools, all children will learn to love each other a little more. Perhaps by allowing prayer in schools, our children won't grow up to do bad things. Gun-free zones produce children with, God-free zones produce children with no morals, and we know what they do.
Mr. Garcia, you have to wrap.
I will. Gun-free zones produce massacres. If you want to do something, you might want to inquire why Homeland Security is purchasing 1 billion bullets. It's not for the military. What's the purpose? Thank you.
Thank you.
Matthew Dunkel.
Good evening, all. My name is Matthew Dunkel, and I'm a member of the Community Voices Heard of Yonkers. We are an organization that supports low-income people, predominantly women with experience on welfare, building power in New York City and state to provide for the lives of our families and communities. Our work in Westchester County is largely focused on Southwest Yonkers. I'm here to urge you to support the Displaced Worker Protection Bill. I used to work for a Unilever company that owned Good Humor Briars. When the company had changed over owners, I was replaced without warning. I was forced to go on to unemployment after being displaced, putting strain on my family and my friends. While at a separate job in the state of Maryland, I was also fired due to the family selling to another company. It took them 2 weeks to get rid of all the other employees with their own temporary employees. This bill would require new contracts to wait at least 60 days before getting rid of workers, therefore not disrupting the services that would be provided. Employees that perform high-quality services should be protected. The Displaced Workers Protection Bill would not cause economic strain on the community nor the contractors. In fact, replacing current and experienced employees with new employees may cost more to contractors because of increasing resources on hiring and training. Okay.
The Displaced Workers Protection Bill is about ensuring economic fairness and some of the region's lowest paid employees. This legislature should support the proposal and show the public that Westchester County cares about workers making a living and working to ensure their workers are treated with dignity. Thank you.
Jeremy Bressler.
Good evening, Chairman Jenkins, members of the Board of Legislators. I'm here to express my support for the passage of the Displaced Workers Protection legislation in Westchester County. I'm the Vice President of Operations for the Connecticut and Westchester region of Guardian Service Industries. I also live in Westchester County and was born and raised in Westchester County. Guardian Service Industries is my family-owned and operated company providing direct oversight and delivery of all daily facility operations and maintenance, including janitorial, window cleaning, engineering operations, metal and marble restoration, lighting maintenance, security, and pest control services. The company was started by my great-grandfather, Samuel Bressler, in 1918. We currently provide services to over 1,000 clients across Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Florida, and employ over 1,800 workers within the tri-state area and Florida. We're one of the largest cleaning contractors in Westchester, and we employ over 75 workers in the county, and we're growing every day. Based on our extensive experience, I know that the legislation will help to improve standards for workers and ensure stability and continuity of services for our clients who are commercial property owners. For example, my company also operates in New York City, where similar legislation has been in place for nearly 10 years. Displaced Service Workers Protection has been very successful in New York City, helping responsible contractors like us remain competitive while providing fair wages and benefits to our employees. The legislation has not caused disruption to the industry, and to the contrary, it has ensured smooth transition and continuity of services to our clients. Our industry is very, very competitive. Service contracts are generally written with very short termination notice requirements. This places janitors and other service employees in very uncertain positions in the event of the change of contractors. They can be terminated with as little as 24 hours notice, leaving no time to save money or prepare for meeting obligations without income. As a responsible contractor committed to providing quality services, our preference is to keep the employees who know their buildings and the tenants. This makes sense from a security perspective and helps us to save on recruitment, hiring, and training. Displaced Service Worker Protection legislation would enable us to compete on the quality of our services without hurting employees. At the same time, displaced service worker protection laws typically continue to provide us with the flexibility to make necessary personnel decisions that we need to make to stay competitive. We continue to determine the levels of staffing we need to provide quality services and retain the ability to terminate employees for cause. Displaced service worker protection legislation is a win-win proposition. It enables responsible contractors to remain competitive and win contracts. It ensures quality services to commercial building owners and their tenants, and it provides a measure of stability and security for the men and women who provide these services. For these reasons, I encourage you to introduce and pass displaced service worker protection in Westchester County. Thank you.
Barry McGoey. Sorry.
Good evening. Chairman Jenkins and honorable members of the board, thank you for allowing me the time to speak. My name is Barry McGoey, and I'm the president of the Yonkers Firefighters of the International Association of Firefighters Local 628. I'm also a delegate to the Westchester Putnam Central Labor Body of the New York State AFL-CIO and a member of the Board of Directors of the New York State Public Employees Conference. Tonight I'm here to speak in support of the Displaced Service Worker Protection Bill. I, along with everyone in this room, understand the value of job security. We know how important it is to be able to pay bills on time and put food on the table. We believe that although we are not guaranteed employment, if we work hard and do the job that we love, we deserve a fair chance to keep it. The Displaced Worker Protection Law will affirm this by protecting vulnerable workers from being arbitrarily dismissed from their job for no fault of their own. I also support this proposed legislation from a public safety standpoint. I strongly believe that it is important to retain experienced workers in the buildings where county residents live and work. Workers who know the buildings where they work and who can assist our county's first responders when they are called to these buildings for emergencies. As a firefighter, I've come to know that in times of emergency, experienced and knowledgeable service workers play an important role in quickly and safely evacuating people from the building that they work in and assist them in bringing them to safety. Their knowledge of the site layout and the tenants, especially those with disabilities or special needs, is invaluable and is an important part of keeping Westchester County's residents safe. By passing the Displaced Worker Protection Law, you will be providing some job security to those hardworking people who have the knowledge, the training, and the experience needed to help keep our county residents safe and secure. Thank you for your time and consideration of this needed worker protection law. Thank you.
Jason Schijano.
Good evening, Chairman Jenkins and Honorable Board of Legislators. My name is Jason Schijano. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you this evening. I'm president of Levitt First Associates. We're an insurance firm located in Westchester, New York. We've been there for over 40 years, insuring both real estate, property owners, including cooperative apartments, rental apartments, office buildings, and other commercial real estate, as well as construction and service contractors. We're also the insurance advisors to the Building and Realty Institute of Westchester. My comments on the negative impact to property owners regarding insurance issues relating to the proposed Displaced Service Employees Protection Law are as follows. The proposed legislation will offer a new additional foundation for claims of wrongful termination. Legal defense for wrongful termination claims is not covered by the types of insurance carried by most small businesses, apartment owners, and/or commercial property owners. The legislation would force these businesses and property owners to purchase new insurance, increasing their annual operating expenses, or risk having to defend such claims out of pocket, with out-of-pocket dollars, or without professional legal counsel, while claimants will likely have access to free legal representation. Even cooperative apartments, which may already carry insurance for such claims of wrongful termination, could see their insurance premiums increase for up to 5 years as a result of a wrongful termination claim that must be defended by their insurance carrier. Thus, I would expect the proposed law could increase the amount of insurance premiums paid as a result of a policy needed to defend such claims, and/or increase the out-of-pocket legal expenses if new insurance is not procured, and/or increase the insurance rates for property owners whose insurance carriers defended them against claims associated with the proposed law. Thank you for your attention.
Florence McHugh.
Good evening, Chairperson. How are you? And good evening, legislators. I speak this evening in my capacity as the Secretary-Treasurer of the Westchester Putnam Central Labor Body, AFL-CIO, representing 80 affiliated local unions, 130,000 members in Westchester and Putnam counties. I'm here to express, of course, our strong support for the Displaced Service Worker Protection Bill. I've been very impressed, and we all have been, with its simplicity and even-handedness. There's something in it for both the employer and the employee. It really is the win-win, and it's fundamentally fair. The new employer gains the experienced workforce without having to hire and train new employees. The employees are assured at least a 60-day retention period, even if they might not receive their exact same level of compensation. This bill applies only to contractors with more than 14 employees. It covers only employees who make less than $25 gross an hour, and those who work at least 20 hours a week. This is more than reasonable to ask. The county has an interest in maintaining a stable workforce. The employer has an interest in employing workers who are skilled in their assigned jobs. And employees have an interest in maintaining some level of job security. Now, on a personal note, I live in a condominium development. It's served by 32 BJ employees, and I feel very secure knowing that the same people are on the job every day. We all know the workers, and they're a vital part of our community. They take pride in their work, and they know that we respect their abilities and we respect their work. Now, I would be very uneasy if the workers where I live would change very frequently, and I know that a lot of other people would be too. There are approximately 5,300 service workers here in Westchester County. They work hard to keep our homes and our offices clean as well as secure, and they deserve to know that their jobs are secure for at least a little while too. For these and many other reasons, we at the Westchester Putnam Central Labor Body strongly support the passage of this act, and we ask that it be passed with a veto-proof majority. It is time to balance the anti-labor votes of the majority of the Board of Legislators with some semblance of protection for the men and women who work, live, and vote in this county. Thank you.
The next speaker is Albert Annunziata. As he's coming down to the podium, I'll call the names of the remaining speakers and ask that you please come and wait behind the black ropes to my left. Robert Archigian, Felix Cano, Abel Rodriguez, Enzo Pizzamente. Albert Annunziata.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, legislators. My name is Albert Annunziata, Executive Director of the Building and Realty Institute. I would say we, as an association representing employers, have been kind of playing catch-up on this ever since we found out that this legislation was certainly well along in the legislative committee or subcommittee of the Board of Legislators. My colleague, I feel like I've known her for years, I met her online, Florence McHugh, actually said something very interesting. She lives in a 32 BJ condo, and the BRI has had a long-standing relationship with the Service Employees Union, Local 32E, and now 32 BJ. God, it seems like forever, it's for almost 60 years. And we recognize the benefits of our 600 some odd buildings representing co-ops, condos, and apartment buildings, and we recognize the benefits of the union agreement that we have with the workers, providing that level of service that Ms. McHugh spoke so rightly about. We have some problems with this legislation because it seems to get the county involved in tilting the playing field overwhelmingly on the side of the union. Now, you know, given my background, both in labor and my family, whatever, it's always a little bit of a conflict to speak this way, but if we had approached the Board of Legislators with, let's say, an overwhelmingly pro-employer piece of legislation, the union would oppose it, and quite rightly they would oppose it. Some of the questions that we have on this, you know, we're talking about quality of work and quality of life. How many people here realize that, speaking of the security industry, that the state of New York, the great liberal progressive state of New York, has no prohibition against workers working 2, 3, 4, or more 8-hour consecutive shifts without sleep? Security industry, other industries, there's no prohibition, as long as they have a coffee break or 45-minute lunch break. Now, I don't know if you all remember, about 5 years ago, a young fellow who I think was on his third 8-hour shift was driving an oil tanker on I-287. And the poor fellow fell asleep. and it caused a massive crash, his death, and it burned several houses on 287. I think it even melted the superstructure on 287. Boy, if we could take a hard look at the laws that we really need, that would really be a boon to the worker. I could not believe when I found out that the state of New York has no prohibition on these things. So I just ask you to take a hard look at the necessity of this, and we raised the issue at the committee meetings. Well, how often does this displaced situation happen? And at one of the committee meetings, one of the union reps said, well, you know, there are some instances. There was no real quantifiable instance or declaration of need. And finally, who is going to enforce this? This board has passed many a good law that is virtually unenforceable. I remember when you passed the, you can't idle warm up your car for more than 3 minutes. How do you enforce that? I remember Tom Abernathy was the spearheaded that. And out of concern for emissions and people with asthma. But how do you enforce this? Who's going to enforce this law? By the tremendous turnout of all the good men and women of 32BJ, many of whom I know, will it be the union who enforces this law that they have supported? As we would say, in certain parts of Naples, that's a fine kettle of fish, that the people who are direct beneficiaries of the law, will they in turn be the enforcers of this? We do not see the county as having the resources to monitor this and enforce this, on top of many other honest questions and honest reservations we have about this law. So I ask you to take a hard look at this and see if there can be some reflection and some honest weighing of the pros and cons of this. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Robert Archigian. Felix Kano.
Good evening. I'm Felix Cano, and I live in the city of Yonkers. I'm a regular worker. I've been working for about 43 years in New York. And the reason I'm supporting this legislation to help the working people is because I think it's the human thing to do. At least 2 times I lost my job in a way where I was told that that was it. And I had to just go home and see what was going to happen to me. I did survive like we all do, but it was something hard to swallow. So in the human side, I will say, please look hard into this, because giving an extension to this worker, at least 60 days to put their account in order to survive is important, because it's saying to us that you guys are looking at us as human beings, not just as something, as a sack of potato that you throw it, and that's it. So that's why I'm in favor of this. And for the people that are fortunate enough to give us a job, I want to thank them for that, and I hope that they prosper and they make more and more every day, because that way we have more jobs, and this is important to us. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Abel Rodriguez.
Good evening, Ken Jenkins and members of the county legislators. My name is Abel Rodriguez. I am a member of Local 32BJ. I have been a member for 20 years, and I am here in support of this bill because I'm a working person. I am a taxpayer. I am a homeowner, and I just put myself in a position that if somebody was to purchase the place where I work and they were to fire me for no cause, I would be losing my home, that I worked very hard to have, and I will go through very rough time trying to find a job. More than likely, I will be going in employment, and therefore will be another weight on, on the taxpayer. I don't think it's too much to ask for someone that purchased a building to retain the people that are working there for at least 60 days. If the person is not a good worker or doesn't deserve to be there, they'll have every right to fire the person. But I don't see why would someone fire a person just so they could save, and we're not talking a lot of money. They could save a couple of dollars and put a lot of people in jeopardy. I have been taking a lot of classes. I'm certified to do a lot of different work, and that's what I bring to the table. If they were to fire people and bring someone that has no experience, who knows what could happen. So thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I hope you guys consider this bill and vote in favor of the bill. Thank you, guys.
Enzo Pizzamente.
Hi, I started as a janitor in this country, working at SUNY College. I was a member of the same union, by the way, working for this. And then I went on my own, I built my business. I worked the average of 16 hours a day all my life, sometime 18, 6 days, and Sunday, half a day. I believe that workers should be protected. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I'm a worker. I mean, I understand that. The problem is, why, by the way, the gentleman with the big company that came and spoke before, he was a very lucky guy because his grandfather left him 1,000 employees and he was able to prosper. What I can see coming from Europe happening in this country is a deterioration of enterprise, people enterprise, and a destruction of small business, and the big business will be even bigger. And I said that because they can afford to spend an extra penny per worker on this, and the health insurance, they have a bigger pool to buy from. So I think the small companies create most of the jobs in this country too. And I don't know if I make a difference in looking at this as a big picture, because I remember when I came here, in each family working one job or two jobs, everybody was able to buy an apartment and a house, and because of the cost of living now, it's not enough anymore. But the burden is not on the back of the small business people that can afford to have lawyers and public relation people and everything else. The way is going, even with the Obamacare law, which I believe, by the way, that we should have a national health insurance, the way it's been done is asinine because they punish the people that, like, again, small companies. They will raise the taxes to everybody in this country. They give health insurance to everybody. Everybody would be happy. No, they had to just make it so difficult that the small people would be smaller and the giant would be even bigger. But I'm not talking as a Democrat or as a Republican. I voted for both. And again, I don't know if I make a difference. And I am a proud janitor, by the way, like I strip floors and did all this. I think this is wrong. Unless the same law, there is another law parallel to that forces the building owners and the company owners that choose another company to keep the same pay to the next people that come in. The reason that the companies fire a cleaning company or a service company is either they don't do a good job or they save money. They want to save money. Never is most of the times it's not the workers' fault. Sometimes it's the owners, they try to squeeze the workers and they don't train them, and therefore they have bad quality. But if there's a decent person that has workers, that trains them, and they do a good job, and there's always another company tries to get the job away from them. And normally are these big companies that come in and take them away because their cost is minimized by maximize the reduction by the number of people they have. So I think it's the wrong way of doing this. Unless you accompany by forcing the building owners to keep the same pay, so nobody will lose. Everybody has a chance. On the other hand, coming from Europe, my God, Europe is going down the drain for these same reasons, because people lost willpower to innovate.
Can you wrap, please?
And so forth. So
thank you. Please wrap.
it's over. Well, I hope I made a point. I don't know if I make a difference, but it's not the small entrepreneur fault. This is a bigger picture than this. Unless you accompany something with something else, the smaller company will disappear. There will be no jobs anymore. And the bigger companies will have them, and they will control the market. If that's what everybody wants, God bless you, and continue doing the way you have been doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have no other cards.
All right. Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harker, Mr. Mazzano, I think people should know that there is no other item on the agenda tonight about this particular item.
Correct. It was just on for public.
It's on for public hearing, just so everyone knows.
With that, Mr. Chair, with your pleasure, I would move to close this public hearing and return to our normal course of business.
Without objection, Mr. Harker. Madam Clerk.
Understanding committees, item 5147 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations, a bond act authorizing the issuance of $750,000 in bonds of the county to finance capital project BCR 5B, infrastructure improvements.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is a bond that would fund security fencing upgrades, the interior of the elevator cabs in the hold on, I'll tell you. In the buildings, and emergency lighting. It's a 5-year PPU, and the design is being done in-house. I will turn this over to Legislator Borgia. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Legislator Myers mentioned, this is the Department of Corrections. There is some containment fencing to create better, safer situations in the case of emergency, and required upgrades that need to be made to correct existing security concerns and also safety concerns. So the Government Operations Committee also moves that this be adopted, please.
Thank you. Members on this item. Madam Clerk, a long roll call vote, please.
Mr. Harcum.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Yes. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Gelfarb.
Aye.
Mr. Kaplowitz.
Aye.
Ms. Marcotte.
Aye.
Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan. Yes. Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa. Yes. Ms. Williams. Yes. Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Approved 15-0. Item 5780 from the Committees on Community Services and Budget and Appropriations, an act authorizing the county to enter into an agreement with the Westchester County Healthcare Corporation for a 5-year term commencing on or about January 31st, 2013, whereby the Westchester Community College will assign students who are pursuing a degree or program of study in the healthcare field to WCHCC for supervised clinical education.
Ms. Myers.
This is a teaching affiliation agreement that actually expired at the end of December of 2012. I will turn this over to Legislator Williams to talk about the merits of this program, but we should note that because it took so long to redo this agreement, due to apparently a change in legal counsel at the Westchester County Healthcare Corporation, these students at the community college did lose 8 months of experience. I will turn this over to Legislator Williams.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This act will allow students who are specializing in the healthcare field, predominantly in the nursing careers, registered nurse as well as RPNs, radiologic technology, respiratory care, paramedics, and surgical technicians to enter into the clinical to complete the clinical requirements of their program, and therefore allow them to obtain all of the requirements necessary for any licensing or certification. As Ms. Myers indicated, it's a 5-year act, and 5-year duration, and it does provide for an opportunity for upward mobility to any number of students involved in the healthcare field, which is, according to all the Bureau of Labor Statistics, one of the most growing fields, economic fields in the country today. So we are supporting of this act, and so moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Members on this item. Madam Clerk, a long roll call.
Mr. Harkam.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Gelfarb. Mr. Kaplowitz. Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan. Ms. Shimsky. Aye. Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa. Yes. Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Approved 14-0. Item 5804 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations, a resolution setting a public hearing on the proposed modification to the Sawmill Sanitary Sewer District by the removal of one property consisting of 2 tax parcels in the town of Mount Pleasant, 100 Palmer Lane.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, I would like to set this public hearing on the proposed modification for April 15th at 7:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members, without objection, will take the prior long roll call vote for the setting of the public hearing. So ordered.
Approved 14-0. Item 5850 from the Committee on Budget and Appropriations, an act providing for certain salary and benefits protection for county officers and employees who are members of the Ready Reserve and who are or may be ordered to active duty.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is legislation that has been brought forward to authorize employees who are called to active duty to basically be paid the difference between the officer's or employer's military salary and the county salary, which the officer or employee would otherwise have received up to a maximum of 6 months. It's intended to keep the employee whole. It began in 2001 after 9/11, and it currently applies to 6 Westchester County employees. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item? I know, Ms. Myers, the only question that we had raised was about the people that seem to be in a difficult scenario that they have to repay anything. Could you shed some light on that, please?
Yes, the committee has heard of the case of some individuals who potentially earn more on military leave than they earn in the county and are potentially being asked to return money back to the county. We have been speaking with members of both Human Resources as well as our Finance Department, and I believe we will continue on this vein and speak with our legal authorities, our legal department next week. But meanwhile, we would like to move this act.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. I think it expires this month, so we have to do that. Members, other members? Without objection, members will take the, oh wait, Madam Clerk, long roll call vote.
Mr. Harkam.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Yes. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Gelfarb. Aye. Mr. Kaplowitz.
Aye.
Ms. Marcotte.
Aye.
Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky. Aye. Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa. Yes. Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Approved 15-0.
Mr. Ryan.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Could I please be recorded in the affirmative for items 2 and 3?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. So noted, Madam Clerk.
Item 5110 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations, a bond act authorizing the issuance of up to $150,000 in bonds of the county to finance capital project BCR 24 county jail renovations.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is a bond for $150,000 up to $150,000 to finance this capital project, which will install a telecorrections video visitation at the 1932 Correctional Facility on the Valhalla campus. I would turn this over to Government Operations at this point.
Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is BCR 24 is part of a long-standing county jail renovation project that goes back to the 1990s. This particular component, as Ms. Myers says, is the creation of $150,000 to install the telecorrection video visitation system, which, as the Department of Corrections explained to us, can be used for a variety of purposes within the correctional facility, including helping our inmates to connect to family and other visitors. They can also be used to do online. To do sick calls to help with the processing of when inmates are sick, and it will increase the efficacy of how the county facility operates. So upon hearing this is actually tied to the next item, 5111, which is the subsequent decreasing of the bond. This is money that's being allocated for these purposes because there was the additional monies left in this project, and this does seem like a good use for the operation of this facility. So Government Operations did pass this affirmatively. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Members on this item? Just a quick note, Madam Clerk and members, if we go back to our fiscal impact statement and to the capital project fact sheet, we will note that this particular project was first appropriated dollars in 2003. Kind of important for some other things that we have going on. So from 2003 right through 2009, where there was some additional appropriations for this particular thing that we're getting to now. So, members, without objection, so ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5111 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations, a Bond Act amending Bond Act 61-2009, issued for capital project BCR 24 county jail renovations by decreasing the bonding amount of $150,000 for a total amended amount of $4,620,000.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, as described so eloquently by Legislator Borgia, this actually is the amendment to the bond that would release the $150,000 to pay for the aforementioned county jail renovations. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item? Without objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5250 from the Committees on Public Safety and Security and Budget and Appropriations, a Bond Act to amend Bond Act number 203-2008 to expand the project scope to include telecorrections video visitation systems and associated equipment in connection with capital project BCR 5B infrastructure improvements.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, similarly, this is actually dividing a bond into two, amending one down to a certain level and then issuing a new one for the difference. This particular bonding amendment does expand the project scope and does include the telecorrections video visitation systems that we've been discussing. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item? Ms. Perez.
There's really not much to add. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Bond Act was amended to reduce the amount by $302,000, and the reduced bonding authorization will be used to relocated to finance the video visitation system. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. Members on this item? Without objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5894 from the Committees on Public Safety and Security and Budget and Appropriations. It's a Bond Act to authorize the issuance of $302,000 in bonds of the county to finance the cost of the installation of a telecorrections video visitation system and associated equipment at the County Correctional Facility in Valhalla.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is actually the amended bond act that does issue the $302,000 required to fund the installation of the telecorrections video visitation system. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Ms. Perez.
As previously discussed, so moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. Members on this item? This is one of those other opportunities where we're missing the capital project fact sheet. I know that we're going to make sure that they're there for all the future bond acts as they come through. Without objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5803 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations is an act authorizing the county acting through its Department of Health to enter into an agreement with the Westchester County Healthcare Corporation for the budget period commencing March 1st, 2012 through February 28, 2013, whereby WCHCC shall provide medical case management and oral health care services for Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam County residents with HIV/AIDS.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is actually a federally funded program, the Ryan White program, that funds medical case management and oral health care services for the residents in the counties of Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam who have HIV/AIDS. This is something that has been done each and every year. The contract was at Westchester Medical Center but was held up in some legal questionings and is now coming forward for us to renew it. What is interesting from a budgetary point of view here is that this is one of the first occasions where we are starting to see some of the repercussions of the sequester in Washington, whereby this is an amount of money that is supposed to come through to the county of $382,334, and it was estimated to us that we may see this cut by anywhere from 5 to 8% because of the sequester. It was noted that we may start to see this coming through budget and appropriations more and more as we move forward in the year. I will pass this over to Community Services. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This act calls for, as was previously stated, case management services and oral health care to approximately 130 cases of HIV/AIDS patients in Westchester County. Unfortunately, the county bears the distinction of being the #1 county outside of the city of New York for HIV/AIDS cases. So this money is sorely needed for the treatment involved, and we would move in the positive. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Members on this item? Without objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5854 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations is an act to authorize the county to submit federal grant applications, including acceptance of funding for the following: urban county application under the Federal Community Development Block Grant, Emergency Solutions Grant, and Home.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, we would like to urge the authorization of the filing of this application to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for approximately $5,228,327 from 3 federal sources: the Community Development Block Grant Funds, the Federal Home Investment Partnerships Program, and the Emergency Solutions Grant. We are under some time pressure here. It is for fiscal year 2013, and the application is due to the federal government by March 15th. I would like to pass this over to Legislator Borgia with government operations.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is our annual application to fund CDBG projects. We do have to continue to make this application, even though there's a little bit of disagreement between the county and the federal government. This will ensure that the worthwhile projects to be funded by the CDBG monies will still be available to our communities when that dispute is resolved. So we certainly, Government Operations supports, in fact urges the passage of this.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Ms. Borges, sorry about that. Mr. Kaplowitz.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the hour is late, but the issue is real important. I sat in on the Government Operations, and I learned, as we all learned, that about $850,000 a year of home money is being held up, as indicated by the two chairs. It's kind of ironic, I would say, because that home money is part of the funding package that is used to provide the housing in the 31 communities that are the very heart of the settlement with the same very entity, the federal government. And if they refuse to grant us $850,000, and that's annually, so we're 2 years in arrears, and then the year going forward, it makes it that much tougher to accomplish the very central nature of that particular agreement. So while it's unlikely anyone's listening at this point, I'm sure they've long ago turned off perhaps the web or all, perhaps our federal officials would grab onto this and urge the Justice Department, urge HUD to do the right thing, and in the spirit of the season, let our money go and give us an opportunity to fulfill the agreements that we'd like to fulfill and be able to move on in good partnership. It is our money after all.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplowitz. Other members? I know in the committee discussion today, I know that we have continued to have this discussion on how the home dollars and CDBG dollars used to be allocated. It's reimbursement dollars. And as we know, we are in federal appellate court right now, so we are kind of on a whole pattern from all of that. But nothing stops this county, and so says legislators, from advancing that money and doing what we've always done in the past, which is get that money back from the federal government because we know where they are. So hopefully, it'll continue to be a discussion with the members in the committee discussion to say, hey, we want to make sure that that money gets to our local communities. Every community that is part of the CDBG consortium is absolutely impacted by that, as well as the stipulation agreement. So hopefully we'll continue to do that. Thanks for that point, Ms. Kaplowitz. Members without objection? So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5899 from the Committee on Environment and Energy, a resolution by the Westchester County Board of Legislators acknowledging participation in the Mid-Hudson Regional Sustainability Plan and endorsement of vision and implementation strategies of this plan as prepared for Cleaner, Greener Communities program of the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority.
Mr. Kaplowitz.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. The clerk's reading really aptly describes what this is. It's an opportunity on a regional basis to participate, in this case, the Mid-Hudson Regional Plan, to see what resources will be available at the state level, to bring them back to our region, and then through our planning department and good environmental groups and other community groups down here in Westchester, be able to, in essence, bid on those dollars to be able to put projects in the field. There's no question this is a wise thing to do. Certainly the administration joins us in support. The planning commissioner indicated today his support for this. The hard work will be the next part, which is if and when dollars are then allocated by the state to be able to literally triage those dollars for the good projects. But I look forward to either standing here or hearing a future environment chair stand and bring these dollars back to us and give us a chance to actually invest in good planning, in good environmental policy. With that said, I would like to congratulate, thank, and turn to Legislator Shimsky, who led us in this discussion, along with many others at the committee level, and helped write this resolution for us this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Kaplowitz. Ms. Shimsky.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chairman Kaplowitz. The Mid-Hudson Sustainability Program combines two very important goals. Number one is to safeguard our environment through smart development, and the second is to take advantage of common resources to advance these goals through regional cooperation as opposed to duplicated effort by individual entities going on their own. The groups that work together on the Mid-Hudson Regional Sustainability Plan included most of the counties in the Mid-Hudson region, included a lot of our local governments. The Planning Commissioner of the town of Greenburgh, Thomas Madden, spent many, many hundreds of hours on this. Some of our own employees, including Chris Crane, one of our erstwhile councils, and there were 5 working groups which comprised, again, government of elected officials, non-elected government employees, and members and leaders in our local and regional environmental groups. Combined, they put in many, many, many thousands of hours to put together a rather comprehensive document to suggest all the different ways that individually and together we can work to reduce global greenhouse emissions and otherwise clean up the environment and make our region that much cleaner and a better place to live. This resolution does not commit us to any specific action. It endorses the plan as a concept document, and it expresses our desire to help with the general goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. They need it, the plan and the consortium needs it at this point in order to begin going forward for the first round of applications to put us in the queue for what looks as if it will be recurring pots of money in the magnitude of tens of millions of dollars. This will be a very good thing to help our people breathe better and live better, and I'd like to thank Chairman Kaplowitz for his leadership on this, and I hope we get a unanimous vote on this. Thank you.
Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The hour is late. I will be very, very brief. First, I join Legislator Kaplowitz in thanking Legislator Shimsky for all her hard work and her timeliness in getting this through, as well as Chairman Kaplowitz. We had a tight time frame on them on this, and the two of them really did a bang-up job getting this through. They are to be commended. One of the things that should be noted, though, is Legislator Shimsky mentioned that most of the counties in the Mid-Hudson region participated. I think it's worth noting because Westchester County was the only county not to be a formal participant in this process. Members of the staff participated in some subcommittee meetings, but we were the only county not to be a formal participant in this process. One can wonder why. I find that a bit disconcerting. And now with $30 to $40 million in regional grants available, I would certainly call on the administration to earmark one staff person or one sector of a department who's going to be responsible for helping our communities navigate this process. This is important money, the county is eligible for some of this funding, and so of our municipalities. And if it's saving money and it's improving our environment, it's putting people back to work, creating those green jobs that we all talk about, they're good things. But we need to have a plan. We need to know what the administration specifically is going to do to lead us forward in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harcum. Other members? We would like to make sure that we thank Mr. Kaplowitz for getting this through the committee so quickly, Ms. Shimsky for her diligent work in reaching out to every member of the legislature and the staff that worked with undercover from Mr. Kaplowitz and Ms. Shimsky to make sure that every member had an opportunity to be heard because of the tight time frame, which I believe had to be done before the end of the month. We don't have another meeting, so it was very important to do. So congratulations to both of you. Members, without objection? Without objection, we'll take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Motions, resolutions, call of the districts.
Ms. Shimsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to add the name of Walter Kuskowski, Kuskowski.
Thank you, Ms. Shemsky. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two items. I'm wondering if all members would join Legislator Marcotte on Donnie Pinto. Apparently is a cousin of our former colleague, Legislator Vito Pinto, so if all members would join us on that. Thank you. And then please add the name of Spencer Dworkin from South Salem. I'll get you the exact spelling, as a former member of the Katona-Lewisboro School Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harcum. Other members, Mr. Kaplowitz.
Yes, I think we probably all want to join on to the passing of Alvin Ruskin, I believe the mayor of New Rochelle, and a trailblazer in many ways. Former New Rochellian, I remember him as a little guy.
All members with Mr. Ruskin. Thank you, Mr. Kaplowitz. Other members? I'm sure that Ms. Spreckman is going to join with Ms. Perez, and I would ask as well for Ms. Vetrano, right? Yeah, and although Gordon Burroughs is not here this evening, he is ill, we would make sure that he would be part of that as well. Other members? Members just in call of the district, we received an email this evening during the meeting that was suggesting the state of the county is going to be on April 23rd, so you can mark your calendars ahead of time, so April 23rd. The note says it's going to be in the jury room, but I believe we had a conversation about this last year. It does not have the same gravitas as it does when we are here in this august chamber, the historic legislative chamber, and it is by charter a report to the Board of Legislators that is required if we are going to Section 110 of the county charter, where there's a requirement. So hopefully through leadership, we will work through that, and we will be here and we'll work with the county executive and his staff to make sure that they have all the accommodations that they need for their video presentations. But we're all hopeful that it will be here. It is a board meeting, and we certainly give the run of the house as it is expected. All right? If we could all please rise and observe a moment of silence for those mentioned in the memorial resolutions. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we adjourn and that we will reconvene on April 15th at 7 p.m.
Mr. Mazzano. Thank you, Mr. Mazzano. Second that. Madam Clerk, short roll call.
Mr. Harcum.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Yes. Mr. Chairman.
Yep. We are adjourned on the motion and second.